Namaste, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday night. I am Reverend Denise Schubert. This is Sunday Night Alive. We are here to explore topics of interest from a spiritual perspective. We're here to explore what practical spirituality means to us as we navigate this human existence. Very excited to be here with you. Very excited about tonight's topic. Actually, don't freeze frame life. What does that mean? Well, we're going to find out in a minute or two. So again, if you're new to me, my name is Reverend Denise Schubert. I am a New Thought minister. I am a purveyor of possibility, a person who believes that a spiritual perspective will empower us to live lives that are joyful and productive and meaningful. Yes. And that the world needs a new thought. The world needs new thought. The world needs to think something new, to be something new, to behave in a new way. And it all begins with us. Global transformation is a function of personal growth and transformation. So really, in order to change the world we live in for the better, we have to change ourselves for the better. So that's why I'm here. I don't know why you're here, but I do trust that if you're here, the spirit within you has called you to be here. And so I just invite you to check in to say hello on the chat. I have people with no names. I have a Facebook user. Hello, Facebook user. I have two dents. Hello, two dents. So let me pray us in before we dive into tonight's topic. So I have to move over so you can see my beautiful bird. So join with me. Take a breath. Take a breath. Maybe the deepest breath you've taken all day. Maybe the first centering moment you've had all day. And we breathe together. We come together to do what I would call centering, which is to gather up all the attention you've had outside of yourself, whether it's family or church, today's church community, whether it's your family, whether it's your work. Let all of that be so you can center down with me by turning your attention inward. And as we turn our attention inward, we turn within to a place somewhere in our hearts that connects us not only to each other, but to all life everywhere, to all life, all animals, all plants, all trees, all stars, all moons, all aliens, whatever there is, we are connected. And so we take this moment to remember that. We take this moment to remind ourselves. And then once we're reminded, I simply bless our time together, fully aware that if we come together in the name and nature of unconditional love, that something good must happen, something loving must happen, some new idea must take place. And so I'm grateful in advance for all the blessings that we give and all the blessings that we receive just by being together for this little half hour today. And so for all of this, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you. We let this be, and so it is. Amen. Hey, Sandra. So last week, I talked about the purpose of life from my perspective after meditating on that question and trying to figure out and really answer the question, not only for myself, but for all of you, for all of us, like, why are we here? Like, what is the point of being alive? What is the point? Yes. What is the point of living in this life? And sometimes it's challenging because life can be very hard and can be very confounding, actually, and challenging, actually. And I think it's a very valid question to say, what is the point? And I think to answer that question is for us to find our purpose. So last week we talked about the end result of my contemplation, which was somewhere in the arena of we are here to experience. I'm just going to recap this a little bit. For those of you who weren't here last week, but as a reminder that we're here to experience, to grow, and to give. And we're here to experience. I say experience because I believe that the reason you jumped into this body of yours, your physical body is a vehicle that is allowing you to experience this life. And you experience this life because God gave you however you want to define God is fine with me. But what God gave you was the ability to see, to smell, to taste, to touch, and to hear. So those are how we really embrace experiencing the majesty of this planet. And I believe that that's a huge motivation for our souls to want to come into these bodies. Now, we might complain about these bodies because we have aches and pains, or we get a disease, or we get hit by a car, or whatever. So the bodies may have a downside living on Earth, but the upside is all good, which is that you get to smell the roses, you get to hug trees, you get to see elephants, you get to see babies being born. We get to experience the true magic of living inside of a body on the planet Earth. Now, I do know that this is a temporary experience, that I am not Denise. You are not Les. You are not Sandra. Those are identities we've taken on in order to have this experience. So you've lived long before this incarnation, and you will live long after this incarnation, because you are life itself, and life and energy cannot be destroyed or lost, cannot die. We cannot die any more than God can die. So, but we're here to experience, and we're here to grow. So I'm also equally as sure that somewhere along the line, your soul said, I want to learn more about patience. I want to learn more about love. I want to learn more about generosity, all the God qualities, that we're here to expand on our experience of those and to grow. I mean, literally grow, to become better, to become more evolved. And finally, that we're here to give. Now, we're not here just to write the check to St. Jude's, or just to write the check to the ASPCA, which those are very good things. And sometimes they're a reflection of the soul, and sometimes they're not. But that's not even the giving I'm talking about. The giving I'm talking about is that you personally and individually are unique, amazing, awesome, and special. And that if you're here to give something only you can give. I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said, if you are here, God must have needed an organ on earth. So, but that kind of giving is a spiritual, it's a function of your evolving spiritually. Growing is also a different kind of growing spiritually than growing humanly, because we all have to grow humanly from birth. Our parents, especially because we are not living in an enlightened society yet. Well, maybe you were. Maybe you did. I don't know. I haven't talked to anyone yet who said their parents were enlightened and awakened. So mostly we were from birth, as Miguel Ruiz said in the Four Agreements, we were domesticated into, and we were taught how to read, how to write, how to cross the street. We were also taught how to think and what to think. What to think has been the biggest mischief maker, because we were taught what to think about money, what to think about sex, what to think about religion, what to think about Republicans, what to think about Democrats, what to think about people of other colors and cultures. And what you and I know, and I'm going to say that because you're here, but what you and I know is that God did not make countries and cultures and races. I mean, God just created life in so many expressions. We have life as fish, life as birds, life as lions and robins, and flowers and plants and medicines, and I mean life expressing. So what I know about God and about life is that we were made to live and to express. So my topic today, so that was just kind of a reminder of last week. You can always go back and watch last week if you didn't get a chance to see it. So I cannot see others' comments. Facebook user, I can see your comments and I can see everyone else's comments. I don't know how to answer your question. Hi, Toby. So my topic, I had a chance to a little bit talk about it today because I was with a group of people I love in Naples. But my topic today is to see if we have freeze-framed life and to not freeze-frame it. So, hold on. So don't freeze-frame life. Now, the inspiration for this, and by the way, freeze-framing means, I'm going to tell you where I got this from because I didn't make it. Well, I did maybe make up the word using it in this context, but freeze framing means that something pivotal happens and we identify with that pivotal circumstance and we stop living. Essentially, we stop experiencing, growing, and giving. And that pivotal experience can be a divorce. It can be a traumatic experience in your childhood. It could be sexual assault. It can be, for my parents, a pivotal freeze-framing experience was the assassination of John F. Kennedy. For others, it could be the assassination of Martin Luther King. It's anything in your life that has you close your heart, and from that moment forward, life becomes about that experience. Now, we don't want to live there because the purpose of your life is to experience, grow, and give. And if anything blocks that, then we need to dissolve it. We need to resolve it. Now, where the inspiration came from this is from a movie called Seabiscuit, which was a movie, for those of you who don't know, I think most people do know, but if you don't know, Seabiscuit was a very famous racehorse. But he didn't start off as a famous racehorse. He started off as the sire. He was sired by racehorse royalty, but he was born too small. So his entire world declared him unfit to be that which he was. And he was a racehorse. No doubt in the end, he was a racehorse. But in the beginning, he was declared to be a failure by his owner, by everyone around him. And this movie, the first 20 minutes, have to do with really watching how people gather around this inconsolable baby horse to have it step into its true identity. So within 20 minutes in this movie, this little forlorn baby horse became a very good racehorse. And he had Tobey Maguire played the jockey, and he had Chris Cooper played this amazing trainer, Buddha trainer. But good. So here's what happened, though. And this is only one of 10 sermons I have about this. 20 minutes into the movie, Seabiscuit is running really fast, doing really well, and he breaks his leg. Now, in the life of a horse, a broken leg is a disaster. It's a tragedy. It's a oh my OMG moment. And also within the first 20 minutes, Tobey Maguire, his jockey, also breaks his leg. So you have a horse with a broken leg and a jockey with a broken leg. 20 minutes into the movie, which that's important because for the person sitting in the seat watching the movie, it was like, holy blank. Now what? This is terrible. This is a disaster. This is a full-blown tragedy. But the movie doesn't stop there. The movie continues. But there is a potential, a huge potential for people. I know people so well. I have talked and counseled so many people we freeze frame on the tragedy. So it could have been that this broken leg ruined this horse's life. I call that freeze framing. Do not freeze frame life on the tragedy. In a minute, I'll also tell you not to freeze frame life on the joy, because it's the same problem in reverse. I remember meeting a woman I was probably in my late 20s, and I met a woman, I think it was actually my first husband's sister. It's terrible, I can't remember that, but whatever. She was in her 40s when I met her. Her husband, the love of her life, her one true love, divorced her when she was in her early 20s. They were married and divorced, and it broke her heart. And I met her when she was 40, and she had never dated again since then. She never allowed herself to give or receive love from that moment forward. I've met people my own parents. So I had a sibling who passed away, who drowned when he was 20. I was 32. He was my brother, same father, different mother. Neither my father nor my stepmother ever recovered from his death. That moment in time got freeze framed, so that the possibility for them to experience, grow, and give diminished as a result of that situation and that circumstance. Are you following me? So all of us have big and small tragedies. All of us. Life is full of tragedies, really, truly. I mean, it is possible for a whole generation of people to freeze frame life over the pandemic, because it was awful. And we're not saying things aren't awful. I'm not saying that losing a child is not a terrible thing, or that surviving a pandemic is not a terrible thing, or having a diagnosis is not a terrible thing. All of these things are heart-wrenching. They're life-altering. But as sad and unfortunate as they might be, and they are sad. By the way, if you lose a child, you're never going to not miss that child. You're never going to forget them. You're never going to stop relishing the memories. But there is an opportunity to continue to evolve, to continue to experience, and to continue to grow, even in the face of those kinds of losses and sadnesses. Now, if you've recently experienced a tragedy, big or small, I don't care, big or small, doesn't matter. You don't have to do anything right now. Your job is to grieve, to be sad, to be mad, to stay in bed for days on end with a pillow over your head. You can do that. If your tragedy was 12 years ago, you can't do that anymore. You have to let it go. You've got to find a way to move beyond it, because your whole purpose on life as a spiritual being in a human body is to experience, to grow, and to give. And if you are stuck in that moment, those things will be impossible to do, and you will have regret. You will regret. There will be a lost opportunity. Now, there are a couple of examples of people I've known personally, and a couple of examples of people I haven't known personally but know their stories, that the tragedy not everyone has to freeze frame. You don't have to get stuck there. There's a wonderful woman, and I hope she doesn't mind my telling her story, because I'm going to use her name. Well, maybe I won't use her name. Her first name is Terry. And I was a minister of a church in North Carolina for almost, 7 or 8 years. And Terry was this wonderful woman with wonderful children. She was cheerful and happy and exuberant and outgoing. And one year, not too long, 4 or 5 years ago, her son was killed in Georgia. I think that's right. Could be South Carolina, but it doesn't matter. Her son was at a gathering, and a car drove into the crowd of people, and her son was killed. And this woman, she made the most amazing difference in the lives of everyone who knew her, because even though she was beyond sad, heart-wrenchingly grieving, she also never forgot what for her were truisms, that God, that her son, she knew her son was a spirit, that he was protected, maintained, and sustained by a love, the thing that created him, that he was not his identity in the human body. So she knew that his death meant he didn't die, really. She was so grateful for all the gifts he gave to her. She was grateful for his presence, his personality, all the things that a parent should love about their children. So she met this challenge in our spiritual community with so much grace and so much dignity and so much love, that she raised everyone's vibration around her. She was amazing. I tell the story only because you might think that losing a child would mean that you would diminish yourself, but she exalted herself and her son and life in the midst of the tragedy. That's what's possible for us. There's also the other story. I didn't know them, but the story about the man whose son was killed in a gang shooting, and then the young man who killed him ended up in prison for life. And somehow, at the end of the grieving process, which of course has to take place, the father of the victim and the father of the shooter became close, acquainted, friends. And they then did ministry together, going around the country, sharing the positive value of forgiveness, sharing the truth that if people knew better, they would do better, that both of these fathers had sons that were born innocent little babies and grew up in whatever way they grew up, and the tragedy happened. But the point is, they did not freeze frame the tragedy. Terry did not freeze frame her tragedy. So I think because the world, as you all know, I'm kind of in a high commitment mode, in that I'm very clear that the world needs a spiritual awakening. People need to awaken spiritually. They need to become aware of the love that they are. They need to become aware of the healing power of love. Michael Singer wrote the book, The Untethered Soul. And it's one of my favorite books, really, mostly because of unconditional happiness. But even in unconditional happiness, Michael Singer would say, under what circumstance are you willing to not be happy? Now, these tragedies, big and small, could cause us to say, well, I can't be happy if my child dies. I cannot be happy if if my husband divorces me. But he would say, no matter what you do, just don't let your heart close. Don't close your heart. No matter how sad, how tragic, how gut-wrenching, how grieve, but keep your heart open. Be sad, but keep your heart open. I mean, those of you who know me, you also know, last year, 2021, I had my left hip replaced. I had a stroke. 2 days after the hip replacement, I had a stroke, which cost me about some percentage of my vision. And it took me many months of doing what I knew to do. And I've been doing this work for a long time. So I had a little bit of money in my spiritual escrow, but it still took work for me not to live life from that moment forward as my life was great until the stroke. now I can't see perfectly, so my life is not as good as it was. We have to repudiate that idea that your life can be good after a tragedy. It can even be great after a tragedy. But you have to be willing to release the you have to be willing to, so you have to take the no trespass sign off your heart. Number one, unleash your heart, because you are a heart. Your true existence is that you are a heart. You are love. You are here to be loved and to love. Nobody's here to be a mass murderer. Nobody's here to be sad and verklempt their whole life. There's no God that says you will be rewarded in your afterlife for enduring the impossible here. That's not why we're here. We are here to experience, to grow, and to give. So, so somewhere in the tragedy, in quotes now, I'm going to put the tragedy in quotes, somewhere in the life circumstance that has been painful, there is a blessing. There are pearls of great price in there. There's ways for you to become more loving, more compassionate, to become more gentle, more tender. There are ways for you to use what happened to you to raise and to inspire. You know, one of the things I always tell people is part of our human story is all of the things that happened to us between age of 0 and 20 that we perceive as the reason why we can't be totally happy. And most people have this before the spiritual light switch gets turned on. So if you're only living from an egoic perspective or from the human perspective, you will have a story that explains why you can't be everything God wants you to be. I can't be this because my parents got divorced. I can't be great because I was born with a special challenge. I can't be happy in a relationship because the love of my life died. I mean, we all have this reason why we can't be fully us, fully loving, fully available, fully giving, fully growing. So normally I would say, well, just stop telling that story. Like, one way of healing the story is to stop telling the story. But the truth is, if you can tell your story, you can tell a sad story in such a way that you become an inspiration to other people. You can tell a story in such a way that you become part of it, the healing of an area that needs healing. You know, like, a good example of that is the woman who started the whole campaign against drunk driving, right? She lost a child. She had a child killed by a drunk driver. And I trust me, she mourned and grieved and gnashed her teeth and questioned God, and probably thought she would never, ever be the same again. But if you are willing to expose your heart, God will show you how to heal. God will show you how to give your gift, how to make a difference in life, how to add to the up-leveling and the evolution of everything. So that's the lesson today. So the lesson is, the question is, the challenge is to look and see if in your life you might have freeze-framed yourself in some small or big way. And it's truly all a matter of degree, because I would suggest that we all have done that. And it's very easy to do because the world, we don't really know how to be connected yet. We don't know how to listen to somebody grieving. We don't know how to advise somebody how to move on. We collaborate too much with smallness and not enough with greatness. So be willing to let go of something. If something's got a hold of you, just be willing to you might have to just take my word for it today, because you might not be able to see it. But no matter what you're going through, love can provide you not only with a feeling better, like healing, but can actually provide you with a purpose for living. It has been said, and I am of the opinion that this is true, that almost everything we've ever experienced, no matter how difficult, has been necessary for us to actually fulfill our mandate as a soul, to experience, to grow, and to give. True giving happens from a broken open heart. True growing happens when we learn more about ourselves and about life and about other people. So don't hide when the shit hits the fan, can I say that on Facebook? I think I can. But rather feel what's going on, but be willing to find the pearl in the oyster. So keep your heart opened and be willing. Be willing. That's our lesson for today. Do not freeze frame your life on small or big tragedies. Also, do not freeze frame your life on the good stuff. How many people, this is equally as good. How many of you have heard someone say, "Oh, I remember the good old days. Life was so good when I was in my 20s. I was strong and healthy." So if you freeze frame on the happy moments, you could do that, like also lose 20 years of experience growing and giving by focusing on something spectacular. We don't do that as often as we do on a tragedy, but no, part of living a spiritual life of power, poise, and confidence, of purpose and meaning, is to live in the present moment, letting what comes to you come to you without living in the past, without measuring everything against something that happened 20 years ago, or even 100 years ago, 100 years ago, maybe previous lifetimes too. So see where you might need to let go of something. See where you might need to uncrust your broken heart. See where you might look for ways to be of service in this life, just the way that it is, without having to change anything. I promise you, you are an eternal, birthless, deathless being. So is your ex-husband, your children, your parents, your friends. When somebody dies, it's not the end of anybody. Energy cannot die. So the form may change, but trust me that the soul of everyone is ultimately, in the end, fine. Why? Because love always wins. Yes? Yes. All right. So, yeah. All right. So I'm going to pray with us. I'm going to speak a word of prayer. Let me let you know what's happening next week. So next week, we're going to do, I took away a little bit of inspiration from a friend this week. So we're going to do the power prayer. So I am is a power prayer. And we're going to talk about why that is true next week when we come back for Sunday Night Alive at 6 p.m. on Sunday. Also, if Sunday Night Live spiritually feeds you and you feel called to tithe or do a love offering, please feel free. I say yes to that. You can do that at my website, which is deniseschubert.com/donations, or you can use Zelle or PayPal for revdschubert@gmail.com. And I think that is it. Is that it? Yes. Or also if you're interested, if you're having a hard time getting unfrozen, or you want some support in releasing your willingness to be willing, I also do one-on-one spiritual life coaching. So if you're interested in connecting with me about that, you can send me an email at revdschubert@gmail.com, or you can also do it on my website. All right, so let's end our time together in prayer. Just keep in mind, if you're new to this philosophy, faith, and way of life called religious science or science of mind. If you're new to affirmative prayer, we do not pray to God, begging and beseeching God to do something for us. We really do start from the premise that you are a divine being, that you and God are one, that whatever God is, God may be more than you are, but all that you are is God. And so when we pray, we're actually aligning ourselves with some kind of divine harmony. We're aligning ourselves with some kind of good that is always available to us. We are looking to open our hearts and to accept the synchronicity, the healing, the blessings, the abundance, the health, the joy, whatever it is we're thinking we need as a human being is available to us as a spiritual being immediately and spontaneously by our alignment with it. So that's what we're praying for. So join me right now as we turn within to close our time together in prayer. If you'd like, close your outer eyes. It will allow you to let the circumstances, good or bad, simply be in the manifested world, which is always changing and will always change, because the manifested universe is a function of thought, a function of consciousness. And so when we close our outer eyes, we can open our inner eyes and begin to gaze into that heart space. We can begin to gaze into that space and place and dimension within us that is whole and perfect always has been, is now, and always will be, regardless of the tragedies, big and small, regardless of the happy times, big and small, that we are beings that are growing in consciousness. We're experiencing the magnificence of this life, and we're looking for ways to give our spiritual gifts. That's why we're here. And so as you and I turn within, we're turning within to a place and space that is that space and place that connects us to each other. God cannot break itself into pieces. So the fullness of of divinity is within me and within you. There's like a golden thread of connection that enables us to stand in the truth that we have a right and a reason to be here, and that every person and every animal, every tree are our brothers and sisters. And so we are in this together. If we're in it at all, we're in it together. And so knowing that this is true, and knowing that we are participants in our divine destiny, I speak this word for and about each and every person here tonight, each and every person within the sound of my voice, to simply affirm with you and for you your wholeness, regardless of what your life experience has been. That you are as much you now as you have ever been, and you are not as much you as you will be moving forward. That we are here to evolve. You are here to grow. You are here to soften. You are here to open your heart. You're here to give love. You're here to give support. And so I accept for each person that we lay down any resentment, any anger, any unforgiveness, any idea that will never be the same again, to know that in this moment you are whole. You are perfect, meaning there is nothing missing, absent, or wrong with you, and that you are complete. And so we carry that into our life. After tonight, carry it forward tomorrow. Don't tell your story unless it lifts somebody up. See if you can listen a little more deeply, love a little bit more compassionately, and just simply allow yourself to continue to grow as on the spiritual path of becoming, and to be tender with yourself. And so I'm grateful to remind us all tonight to be loving, to remind us all tonight to not get stuck anywhere in life. Life was never meant to be stuck. It's meant to flow. Like water flows, we flow around the rocks. Sometimes we may get stuck for a minute, but not forever. Life comes here to bless us and then to leave us. I love the picture of two ducks on a calm summer lake, that they come together, they argue for a minute, kerfuffle, and then they both swim off into the stillness of the lake. It's how I want us to live. And so join me tonight in the blessings you have given and the blessings you have received. by saying together, and so it is. Amen. Amen. Mhm. So I enjoyed you so much tonight. Thank you all for joining me. I always love my Sunday nights with you, and all the comments and everything that comes in afterwards. It just kind of gets my juices going. So have a wonderful week. If I don't speak to you until next Sunday, we'll see you next Sunday for the prayer of I am. Have a wonderful evening.